Let's practice some oil pastel techniques. Up here you'll put your name as well as the class code. Then we're ready to begin. I have here a number of different boxes that we'll be doing different things with. To get started, you will need a black oil pastel, a white oil pastel, and a gray oil pastel. Those are our values, as well as various colored oil pastels. In this first box, we're going to make a gradient blend between white and any color you would like to try with. I like to start with the color first. Usually whatever is darker I like to start with. I find that to be helpful. So I'm going to press harder on the side that says color. As it gets towards white, I'm going to press lighter and lighter. Trying to fill up the rectangle most of the way. Does not have to be perfect. There we go. We've got start of a blend. Then I'm going to take my white, start at the end that says white, and go in little circles. You'll notice as I'm going, it's really blending with the color that I used, which was blue, and creating a tint. Because the tint is white plus a color. At the end, I have a smooth transition from white into blue. After I've used it, the white oil pastels picked up some of the blue, so I also have a paper towel that I can use to clean the oil pastels as they go so they can stay on their true color. Next, we're going to blend gray and a color. Same idea. I'm going to take a color and vary my pressure as I go across. So pressing hard, then medium, then light. Take my gray, and I like to blend in circles or ovals. This is a great way to neutralize a color. If the original hue is too intense, mixing it with gray can really make it a lot more neutral. Again, if I need, once I've used a color, I can clean it on the towel. You can tell what's going to be next. Black plus a color. This time I'll start with black, since black is going to be darker than whatever color I blend it with. Lighter and lighter and lighter till I can barely see it. I'm going to fill in the rectangle a little bit better there. Okie dokie, let's blend with a color. What color should I use? I think I'll use green for this one. Cool. As I go, since it picked up that black, I'll clean on the towel till my green is nice and green again. Okay, here we've got white and a color and black. Start with the darkest part. But this time I don't go very far past because I want to get that color blend. Maybe I'll blend with magenta. And once I get a little bit past the middle, I'll start to lighten it up by pressing more gently, and I'll finish blending with the white. I like to always clean my oil pastels right after I use them, since I think that really helps make sure that I don't accidentally mix up colors I don't want to as I'm working. It's pretty easy by just drawing on top of the paper towel to clean it. So we've got 4 color blends. Again, you can use any color you want, and if you forget what goes where, that's why I've got these little words to help remind us which was which. So we're using 2 pastels for the first 3, and white, black, and a color for this last one. Over in these blocks, we have some more different techniques to try. For a heavy pressure blend, we're going to use 2 different colored oil pastels. I think I'll use magenta and a blue because I like the combination of colors. And I'm going to, obviously, since I'm using heavy pressure, press really hard with the oil pastel. As it gets to the other side, I will lighten the pressure a bit just so that I can see what just the blue looks like on this end. By pressing hard, we get very solid oil pastel coverage. It looks almost like very thickly applied oil paint, I would say. To really show the difference between a heavy pressure blend and a light pressure blend, I'm going to use the same colors over here, but this time I will press very, very gently and leave some of the white of the paper showing. So it's still going to give us a similar color where they overlap, but we can see a lot more of the texture of the paper. So it looks different. This box says stippling. Stippling, also called pointillism, is a lot of little tiny dots, just to really show the cool effects of color pastels blending. I'm going to stick with my same colors and make a lot of little tiny dots. I'm not using a lot of pressure here. I'm just gently tapping or marking. It's okay if they're not all exactly the same. Then I'll go in with my other color. Some people like some techniques better than others. I think art is about trying and experimenting to find out what appeals to you. If you wanted to get a really blurry effect, you could even go back in with the white. Add some stippling with white that's going to lightly blend the colors underneath it. Or I could go back in with any one of these other colors, add a little more of it. Scumbling is another way to show texture in our oil pastel, and I'm going to be making little tiny circles with my oil pastel. I don't really have to press very hard. It's okay with this one that some of the paper shows through again as well. This is a great way to give your drawings a very natural appearance, because it ends up looking very random and organic. And it might look different depending on how many layers you do. Sgraffito is a fun one, but we have to be very careful with the tools we will need. We will need a scratcher to scratch through 2 layers of oil pastel. So I'm going to start with 1 layer. Maybe I'll start with yellow and press pretty hard. Then I'll go in with another layer. Maybe I'll even go in with a 3rd layer just to really finish things off. And then with my tool, I'm going to scratch a design or some lines. It may scratch through to show the white of the paper, or it may show an oil pastel layer underneath depending on your color combination that you chose. So I think this one's really fun. The texture is pretty subtle with these smaller tools. I have some other wooden tools that have a more blunt tip. You can experiment with those as well. They make a line that's a little bit bolder. I'm not using a pencil to do this though, because the graphite might make it harder to see the oil pastel color underneath. And our last one is smooth blend. This time I'm going to use about a medium pressure with the oil pastels. And I will take my paper towel, fold up a little bit of it by rolling and folding till I have a nice point, and I'm going to use it to smoothly blend. So that's another different technique as well, and it creates this nice color depending on the colors you chose. I'm excited to see your oil pastel techniques. Again, we have all of these different techniques. They're labeled to help you remember what goes where. And if you finish them early, you can try drawing your own picture using these techniques.